Well, how about that? You give one player a stern talking to on Locked On Angels, and the very next day they come out and do everything right. Now, unlike Tuesday, Nolan Schanuel didn't cost the Angels the game on Wednesday. He actually won it for them.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John. And today's episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase.
On today's show, Walbert Ureña earned himself another start this weekend in Kansas City. The Angels just finished a stretch of 13 games in a row. Are they going to get their groove back on the road for the next 6? We'll talk about that. But first, let's talk about the matinee game from Game 3 on Wednesday, Mike, between the Angels and the Blue Jays. The Angels win and salvage the series 7-3.
Yeah, we said that we are going to celebrate sacrifice flies like home runs on Locked On Angels this season. So let me take you to the bottom of the third. Our first takeaway is that the Angels did get their first run on a sacrifice fly. It all started with Logan O'Hoppe, who led off the bottom of the third inning with a single the other way, which, by the way, love that, Logan. Love that. And then Bryce Teodosio got a bunt single. Also, love that, Bryce. Yep. That was really good. Neto struck out. Then Mike Trout walked. Then Joe Adell hit a deep sacrifice fly to right center, and that scored a run. Then Soler walked, and then Peraza, he smacked one down the third baseline, but Okamoto made a huge stop for a final out. So you would obviously want to get some more runs in that situation, but we're staying true to our commitment. We're people of integrity. We're celebrating sacrifice flies.
Woo! I posted
on Angels.
On Super Halo Bros. I posted the whoa
Love
sack fly. Takeaway number 2 is, hey, bounce back, my dudes. Logan O'Hoppe got that bottom of the third inning started with that hit the other way that you mentioned, Mike. He did it again with a bloop the other way in the fourth inning. He also threw out Nathan Lucas in the top of the third trying to steal second. His pop time right now, and I'll have to look at it again after yesterday's game. 1.99, still not the best in the league, but it is the best of his career. Anything sub 2 is going to help you get the job done. So that's encouraging for Logan O'Hoppe. Nolan Schanuel, his first at bat saw him fly out to left center. Wasn't a hit, but it was the right idea. Went with the pitch. He got a fastball up and he turned on it and hit a home run in the bottom of the fourth to make it 2-0. So that was great to see. Then he had that big 3-run double in the 7th inning. We'll talk about why it was significant a little bit later on. But Mike, sometimes all it takes is a couple of at-bats to get your head right. Can these, Logan looked really happy with himself and pleased with himself, hitting the ball the other way. Nolan, the same situation. Can these two keep it up and get right in the head and on the field?
Yeah, I think what's going to take, and speaking of Nolan Schanuel first, I think what it's going to take is that he just needs to be focused on doing what he does well. And what he does well is what he did yesterday. That double down the left field line, very Garret Anderson-like. I loved it because it dropped right in on the line, like a little bit into fair territory, but it was perfect because it cleared the bases. And I love how fired up he was. And I think he did say, to like us, he said, "Suck it, boys," because I think you heard our show yesterday. So, but I really think that if they're going to continue to be effective, they got to do what they did yesterday. And talking about Logan O'Hoppe, going the other way is something that he needs to do. He gets into this tendency of wanting to pull everything, especially as they're throwing the pitches to the outward part of the zone and even off the plate. And John, he's coming around and he's just planting that left foot, which is going to cause him to just use all of his hands to pull the ball. But what you saw yesterday is that he was waiting for the ball to get a little bit deeper, and he was making good contact deep in the zone, which allowed him to go the other way. They need to keep that up. Both of them do, and it'll help them to be the player that they are supposed to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned Garret Anderson, and our third takeaway is that Trout's first home run at home this season is actually historic. It was a 5th inning home run, his first one at home this year, and his first RBI at home this year. It tied him with Garret Anderson for the most extra base hits in Angels history, 796 extra base hits in his career. So just totally appropriate given what happened last Friday and the tragic passing of Garret Anderson. Trout is now tied with him for the most extra base hits in team history. So very cool to see that. Trout's first home run at home and his first RBI at home. Got to get the bat going. And they certainly, with Joe Adell and Mike Trout putting up single runs there and getting those RBIs in, we said it on the show, as they go, so the rest of the team goes.
Mm-hmm.
And if your top four aren't doing anything for you right now, then the rest of the team is going to struggle as well. Unfortunately, so Jose Soriano, he had a great start. He broke the record, but he didn't get the win in this one, huh, Mike?
Right. Yeah. Went 5 innings, 7 hits, scattered 7 hits. Whenever you hear somebody say scattering 7 hits, it sounds like a lot of hits, but watch Jose Soriano start from yesterday. That's what scattering 7 hits looks like. It didn't hurt him. There was a hit almost every inning, but it didn't hurt him. And he didn't allow it to hurt him. And reason why it didn't hurt him, John, no walks. That was the big key again for Soriano. And I think it's a big key to why he hasn't allowed more than 1 earned run this year, because he's not walking guys. And so when you give up hits, you're not knocking in the guys that you've walked. Now, he threw 84 pitches, lowered his ERA to a minuscule 0.24, 1 run allowed in 37 2/3 innings pitched. He's the first major league pitcher, baseball history, since 1900 to allow 1 or fewer total runs through his first 6 starts of the season. And that's excluding openers, obviously.
Right.
John, super, super good start, even though it was shorter. Now, he has a scoreless streak, and it's going to 24 2/3 innings pitched. And per Matt Birch of the Angels, Joe Saunders had 25.2 innings of scoreless baseball from September of 08, that was September 12th of 08 to April 11th of 09. Now, Soriano seemed to be in a little bit of pain in this game in the 4th inning, was stretching out at the back of the dugout and maybe a little bit stiff. So he came out and he finished the 5th inning, which allowed him to get the win. And then the Angels bullpen blew it. And we'll talk about that in a second. But he was really good in the short amount of time that he was out there. John, do you think that this moment with Soriano was him going out for the 5th and then not for the 6th was a letting him have his win? Or do you think it was, let's protect this guy because he has thrown a lot of pitches and has gone deep into games, and we don't need to push him 1 more inning? What do you think?
He definitely could have gone another inning under normal circumstances, but you saw in the 4th inning, something wasn't right. He threw a pitch and then he kind of held up. Logan went out to visit him. I let out an audible, uh-oh, here we go. And then you see him stretching in the dugout and doing all that. So, Mike, there was something noticeable going on there. And so I think it made sense to take him out at 5. And to me, that's the win. I think not letting him have the win is putting him back out there, knowing that he's uncomfortable and not throwing his best.
Yeah.
Look, the first runner for the Jays reached scoring position in the 5th inning. Everything else, nobody got past first base. And so when you talk about scattering 7 hits, that's exactly what happened with Jose Soriano. And it wasn't until that 5th inning that somebody reached second base. So with that said, I think Kurt let him have his win in this one, because if he had pushed him a little bit harder, given the circumstances, under normal circumstances, 84 pitches going into the 6th inning, he probably could have gone at least the 1 and if not 2, right? Depending on how that 6th inning goes. But I think it was the right move in this case. I think it let Soriano have the win in terms of a personal win, but not the actual win, because what happened, Mike?
Yeah, 5th takeaway is that the bullpen blew it again. Now, Ryan Zefferjon comes out for the 6th inning. John, he gets 3 outs, does really, really well.
Right.
Then he comes back for the 7th inning, and he has done back-to-back innings. We've seen him get stretched over 2 innings, which is fine, but he comes back out in the 7th inning, and he gets the first out, and then he walks a batter, and then he gives up a double. So Chase Silseth comes in and gives up an RBI ground out. Not too bad, right? You're getting it out, right? 2 outs, you're fine. But then Nathan Lucas doubles in Jimenez, and then Ernie Clement gets an RBI single. So the Jays do what the Jays do. They make contact, and they hit it where you're not, and it left the game at 3-3. As I watched this game while I was at work, I was wondering something, and I want your thoughts on this. It felt like Zefferjon went out and I didn't see anybody warming up. I could be
No.
wrong about that.
Yeah.
But okay, so I did see that correctly.
I think you're right.
And then it felt like it was a quick get Chase Silseth up, and then he really didn't. It didn't feel like he got the amount of time to warm up. And this isn't an excuse for him to come in and not get the final out, but did he feel rushed getting in there yesterday?
It felt rushed to me, and this feels like a trend through the first 20 some odd games of the season, Mike. It feels like the Angels don't have a guy ready to go behind the guy who's out there until it's too late, until it's time to hit the panic button. I felt like that's what happened with Zephyr John. It was, there's a walk and there's a double. Then you should have had Silseth warming up at the beginning of the 7th just to, stretch and toss and get yourself loose for it. And if you needed him, you could bring him in. Well, you needed him, but it looked like on the broadcast, and nobody's really confirmed it yet. I know Wayne Randazzo mentioned something. It seemed like Silseth got right on his feet and threw a couple pitches and then went right out there.
You're in, kid. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just don't think that Kurt has managed that part of the game well at all so far this season. It feels like a lot of these guys are getting rushed in, and they're also not having the time to get ready, and they're not getting ready just in case. There's no just in case guys warming up, it feels like.
And I know that the narrative for some Angel fans yesterday was like, well, Kurt's shown his inexperience and things like that. But I do think that this is also on his assistant coaches and getting those guys up at the right time so that when Kurt is making a decision, he's not having to think about, is that guy ready or not? He can turn over to Mike Maddox and go, when did he get up? Is he ready to go? And Maddox can say, yeah, he's ready to go. Now, Chase may have not needed that much time to warm up because he's been pitching a lot lately, and I totally get that. But I don't think that you want to rush somebody out there if they're not ready to go. It would make sense that if you're going to push Zephyr John for 2 innings, that you would at least have, in that start of the 7th inning, you would at least have somebody up in the bullpen who's getting loose before Zephyr John throws his first pitch in that inning. And then when he does walk somebody, you now can slow things down, delay some things. Hey, send Logan out there to talk to him for a moment. And hey, the pitch comm's not working, right? Like you could do some of those things to maybe extend that time. It just seems like so far, 26 games in, they haven't been thoughtful about that part of the game yet. And I think it's hurt them like it did yesterday.
Definitely. Well, the bullpen got bailed out by the hitting. That's our 6th takeaway. Angels answered right back in the bottom of the 7th. Trout had a 1-out walk. Adele singled, moved Trout to 3rd. Soler did strike out. Moncada pinch hit for Oswald Peraza, took a walk. Then Nolan Schanuel hit that bases clearing 3-run double to left. Where was it? Up and away. It was a curveball. What did he do? He went with the pitch. Exactly what we needed him to do, and that's why he was able to clear the bases. There was plenty of room on that side. Again, like you mentioned, Mike, he's got to get back to what he does well, and that's exactly what he does well. Schanuel gets to 3rd on a pickoff error, and then Von Grissom singles him in, so that's where the 7th run came from. So the Angels win this one 7-3. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, the Angels just finished a 13-game stretch. Should we like back off the Angels a little bit? We'll talk about that and much more coming right up.
Maybe the Angels will play better if we show up to games more, right? Maybe they'll be good if they could feel the super Halo Brother energy. Yeah. I think it's time to go to a game, Johnny, and that's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Simple to use, literally 2 taps, and you're done. No stress, no hidden fees, just great seats in minutes, and that's what makes it so easy to decide to go last minute if you're thinking about going to a game, but maybe weren't thinking about it during the day. And the Game Time guarantee means that you're going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. And here is the best part. All the fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay, period. So take all the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download their app, create an account, use our promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. And when John and I go to games, we're going to let you know, because why not come and sit with us? Why not hang out? Let's have a soda together and cheer on our favorite team. Download the Game Time app today.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network out there, thanks to everydayers like you. And we want to invite you to join the Everydayer Club. You can get every episode ad-free in your favorite podcast feed. You can get private Discord access and chat it up with myself and other everydayers across leagues, across sports, across the whole network. It's super fun, so much fun. We're having a lot of fun with our game day threads for Locked On Angels as well. And you can, there's so many more perks. Honestly, you got to check it out for yourself. LockedOnAngels.supercast.com is the place to be. Head on over there right now and join the Everydayer Club.
The Angels just finished their 13th straight game in a row on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Going back to Friday, April 10th, they started in Cincinnati. They played 3 against the Reds, 4 against the Yankees, 3 against the Padres, and then, of course, 3 against the Blue Jays. Went 6-7 over that stretch.
Don't do it.
I didn't. I'm a dad. It's not cool. And then the Guardians actually had a 13-game stretch as well. And, John, they went 6-7 during that time as well. And that was with one more home game than the Angels had. All told, they took 2 of 3 from the Reds, and then they split the 4-game series against the Yanks. They took 1 of the 3 games against the Padres, and then they won yesterday, which was 1 of the 3 games against the Blue Jays.
Now, the Angels did play a day game in New York on Thursday, flew east to west, and then played Friday night. That same day, they got the Garret Anderson news. Of course, that Friday, nothing was wrong. They had won 8-0 against the Padres, so the offense is still clicking. But it was after that game that things had gone cold for a while. They also missed Jorge Soler for the last 2 games of the Yankee series and the first 2 of the Padres series. Mike, 13 games, flying east to west, missing Soler. Garret Anderson passes away. Pretty rough stretch. Should we be a little easier on this team and the offensive issues, all things considered? What do you say?
I think the problem with this team is that we talk in spring training about their potential. Mm-hmm. And, of course, everybody had an opinion about that. You and I have kind of ran with the idea that their ceiling is 500 if everything goes right. And a lot of people are like, no, if they're going to be a 70-win team and maybe lose 90 games. And so we're all kind of in those categories. And then when we see them come out really well offensively, and then starting pitching has been really good, bullpen a bit shaky. But when we see those things and we see what they can do against all really good teams, everybody that they've played outside of the Astros were playoff teams last year. And the Astros potentially could be a playoff team this year, although they're off to a rough start. But, John, all those teams are really good. And they've been in every game. There hasn't been like a crushing blowout where it was like, oh, it's just completely over. Maybe one of the Astros games.
No position players on the mound for the Angels so far this year. That's a great sign. That happened day 1 last year.
And then there was a lot of questions about, will the Angels be able to replicate Taylor Ward's offense? So far, it's been Taylor Ward who, right? Because they're second in the majors, I think, in home runs, and they're walking a lot. They have a different approach. Again, pitching has been really good. So all things considered, I think what we got really excited about was, whoa, maybe our contention here was a bit off, and that they are better than what we thought. And if they're going to play above their pay grade, which they did in some of the games, maybe they could be better. Maybe they are like a third wildcard team. And with the AL West not being fantastic, I think we got a little excited. So all things considered, I don't think that we should back off, because I think a good stern talking to can shape them up. And that's what happened with Schanuel yesterday, right? But I think what we're seeing as fans is nobody's really taking off in the West. Maybe this might be an opportunity for the Angels to take advantage of that. And here's why I don't think that we need to, as fans, pull our foot and put on the brake instead of pushing the pedal to the metal, is because now we're moving into games against teams that are not good. Kansas City, the White Sox, the Mets, like those are the next 3 series. And those are the series that we should win. We must win, right? It's not going to be like, well, it's the Padres and they're really good, and it's the Yankees and they're really good. These are teams that we should beat. So I don't think that we should go easier on them, because typical fashion with the Angels is when they play teams that they shouldn't play well, they play well. And with the teams that they should play well against, they don't play well.
Yeah. You look at the starters they faced over the last couple of series too. You see them, beat Chris Sale. They beat Chase Burns. They beat Max Fried, right?
Yeah.
But then they struggle against Patrick Corbin, as they always do. That's the most frustrating part about all of this. Now, the Angels are going to have Thursday off today, and then they're going to go to Kansas City, and they'll face the Royals this weekend. It's going to be Yusei Kikuchi versus Noah Cameron, who is good but has not been good. Walbert Ureña is going to start on Saturday versus Cole Reagans. Again, another guy who is good but hasn't been good. And then Reed Detmers versus Seth Lugo, who actually has been good. So if you're going to win any of those games, you've got to win at least those first two, because Seth Lugo is going to be a tough customer on Sunday. Now, there's two more lefties to start the series, both who have struggled this year, which means we'll probably see the same lineup that we saw over the last 2 days. The lineup that we all prefer, it feels like, or at least Mike and I prefer. After that, Mike, they're going to face the White Sox for 3 games in Chicago, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're currently 12-14. When they get back on Friday of next week to face the Mets for the weekend, will they be over, under, or exactly 500 when they get home?
I think they'll be exactly 500, because I think if they win each of those series 2-1, then they'll be 16 and 16 by the end of April. And gosh, John, if I was to tell you in January that our Halos would be 16 and 16 at the end of April, would you have been ecstatic about that?
I think so. Yeah. Considering how our offseason went and how disappointed we were in the offseason. Here's what I would like to think about is I don't think the best is yet to come, and not trying to be like, inhale my hopium, but the team that this was supposed to be coming into the season is not who they are now.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is in a couple of different ways. You don't have Grayson Rodriguez in the rotation. I think that's going to be a huge boost. Now, we knew that Ben Joyce was going to take some time to get back, and he should be back pretty soon, which is going to help out this bullpen. We expected Kirby Yates to start the year with us. He has not yet. He is having a rehab assignment in AAA, I think on Friday. Maybe it's tonight or Friday. And then, of course, we expected Robert Stevenson to be part of the bullpen. He's not there. And so the Angels have had to kind of, juggle some relievers and move some guys around. And, at this point, they're still got to go to Jordan Romano to close things. And that's not been fantastic. In terms of the position players, Soler has been better than I think anybody would have expected. Oswald Peraza has been better than anybody expected. Zach Neto is taking walks. Mike Trout is healthy. Joe Adell has been consistent and hasn't regressed from last year. Nolan Schanuel has struggled. Logan O'Hoppe still struggling going back to last year. So there's a lot that we would have said, oh yeah, it's going to go this way. There's a lot that's been better than we expected. There's some that's been worse than we expected. But I think in terms of the guys that we're getting back for, especially the bullpen, which has been kind of the weak point, Mike. I also think that we didn't expect Jack Kohanowitz in this rotation and do what he's doing right now either. And so that's the thing. If you would have told me in January that they were 16 and 16 at the end of the month, I would have been like, okay, I'll take that. Like, April always sucks, doesn't it? Like the first month of the season is rough. Yeah. And so for those guys to emerge at 500 and put the month of April behind them, the weather gets warmer. They hit a little bit better in May. They do better in June, right? It's always by July and the All-Star break and the trade deadline that things kind of go south. That's really going to be the key, right? That's going to be, if they can survive that, then I'll inhale the hopium a little bit more and enjoy this team. But man, floating around 500 right now, it's the best we thought that they could do. And I think that is okay at this point of the season.
Last Sunday, we were all surprised to find out that Walbert Ureña was going to be the starter against the Padres.
Right.
It pushed Detmers and Kahanowitz back to the Blue Jays series, which wasn't a bad decision. They did pitch well, although we didn't win those games. They pitched pretty well. And Ureña was pitching really well. It was a solid debut as a starter in baseball. 6 innings, 8 Ks, 2 walks, 2 earned on 92 pitches. His 6th inning going into the 7th inning, that's where he really got tired. You could see that. And so that's where those 2 walks came from. But he was really, really good. And Rhett Bollinger of MLB.com had a really great write-up about Ureña's start. John, share what Walbert said about his first major league start.
Yeah, he said, I felt pretty good. I was emotional. That was incredible for me. I'd never been a reliever, so that was new to me. Remember, he started the year out of the bullpen as a reliever. I tried to get my routine going as a reliever, but when I got back to Salt Lake, I started getting starts again. So I think that's my best thing, starting. We think that too, Walbert.
Yeah.
I tried to keep doing what I've been doing the last couple of months. I think the changeup is my second best pitch, so I just tried to throw it there and see what we got. Now, the average velocity on his pitches in that game against the Padres, 98 on the sinker, 98.7 on the four-seam fastball, and 91.1 on the changeup. He got the first 8 batters out, Mike. He gave up a 2-out double to Bryce Johnson in the 3rd. But the biggest thing that he did that stands out to me, and this alone earns him another start, on Saturday, he struck out Angel Killer Ramon Laureano to get out of the jam and get around that 2-out double. That to me, I'm like, all right, you're hired, right?
Yeah.
Because I hate that guy. He always does something in the outfield, or he's crushing us at the plate and whatnot. Back to his A's and his steroid days, apparently, as well.
Yeah. He pitched against the Padres.
Yeah.
A really good team. So thinking about this weekend, he's pitching against the Royals, who have not been really good so far this year. In fact, they have the 3rd worst WOBA, which is weighted on base average. That means that how they're getting on base isn't very impactful. Yeah. So more walks and singles and less big hits, which is kind of what Walbert did on Sunday. He had those 2 walks. He wasn't walking anybody prior to that. And if they were making contact, it wasn't significant contact. Think about what Soriano did yesterday. It was similar to Soriano's start yesterday, where he scattered some hits and they weren't really in control. And as a fan, I'm watching this feeling really confident about our pitcher on the mound. And that's where the Royals are. Now, for comparison, the Padres are 23rd in WOBA. So if Ureña could handle the Padres, then it seems like he would be able to handle the Royals. John, I'm personally glad that they are sticking with Ureña as a starter in this rotation currently. And I think they need to run with him until Grayson Rodriguez is ready to go. I don't think that they need to send anybody else up. I don't think they need to make an adjustment. Obviously, the caveat would be if he, goes an inning in 2/3 and gives up 9 hits and 9 runs, right? Like if he falls apart, yes, then it's time for him to go back and get some work. But I think what we saw from Walbert was a more confident kid who is a starter, not a reliever. And John, they made a lot of talk about him wearing the glasses on Sunday, and that could have been a significant change. Sometimes just having something on you is going to be helpful and beneficial. It's also for comfort. And so I wonder if just having something on his eyes maybe helped him to focus in and be comfortable. Who knows? But I'm glad to see him get this second start, and I'm anticipating that it will be as good, if not better, than his start on Sunday. What do you think?
I'm glad to see him get the second start, and I'll say that no matter how it goes, I'm glad that he's getting a second opportunity. Look, we've talked about the Astros. They didn't make the playoffs last year, right? But it was kind of, by the skin of their teeth, they didn't make the playoffs. But I think you and I have had this conversation before, Mike. The Astros always find a way, don't they? They always have injuries. They played most of the season without Yordan Alvarez last year. They have, a hurt rotation. They're down, certain guys and whatnot. They lose Framber Valdez this year. Hunter Brown is hurt. I think Christian Javier, I think he's hurt right now. But then you have Spencer Arrighetti, who they had to rely on last year, come up, and he's been solid for them so far. And so what I'm getting at is they always find a way. They always have a guy and they always plug him in. And it's like, all right, we'll be just fine. You know, they didn't have Carlos Correa, and they're like, yeah, because we have Jeremy Pena now. What do we need him for? And then they end up bringing him back in the trade, right? But here's what I mean. When we projected, hey, who do the Angels turn to if the rotation doesn't go well? Ureña wasn't part of that conversation. Nope. And so to have him as another option in addition to Clausen, who we've tried, and he filled in for Ryan Johnson, who was filling in for Grayson Rodriguez, who was filling in for Jack Kohanowitz, filling in for Alek Manoah, right? None of what we talked about preseason actually ended up happening. And so here we are on April 23rd talking about Walbert Ureña, who we didn't expect to be in the bullpen to start the year either, getting his second start. And I think it's worth a look. This is how you find out if this is a guy that you can rely on and turn to and keep in your rotation, or keep him, you know, close to the vest as one of the cards you hold in your hand. I'm so glad he's getting a second start. He definitely earned it after Sunday. And then no matter how this goes, like you said, what if it's an inning and 2/3? It's not great. Good. Then you have an answer, right?
Yeah.
Then you know what you need to do. You know, you need to have him figure some stuff out. And then you kind of have to hope that Ryan Johnson's ready to return, or Caden Dana's ready to go. Like, all those guys that we had been talking about, they're not part of the conversation right now because Ureña looks so good against the Padres. I really hope he does what he did on Sunday. I hope he does it again on Saturday. But again, I'm just glad that we're at a point where we have another card in our hand that we can use as a team to turn to somebody who feels reliable and feels like, you know, starting is his MO, not relieving. I'm glad that he said that in that article with Rhett Bollinger, that I think I'm a starter. And it's just like, yeah, put that out into the universe, because you are a starter, my friend. If bullpen, if relieving is not working out for you, be a starter and do it as well as you did on Sunday against the Padres.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow Locked On Angels so that you get all of the latest episodes. And if you never miss an episode, man, the Everydayer Club is built just for you. Get Locked On Angels ad-free, members-only Discord access, so much more. Head to lockedonangels.supercast.com and join the club.
Be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, whether you're watching or listening. Come on over to YouTube, find today's show, get in the comment section, because we'd love to hear from you. We always read all your comments and do our best to get back to everybody there. Mike, what do we have on deck for Friday's show?
Yeah, speaking of comments, we would love for you to comment your questions, your thoughts. It's Fan Mail Friday on Locked On Angels, so you can comment, you can DM us, you can call our voicemail line. All of that's available to you. We would love to hear from you. Let us know what's on your mind, and we'll respond to your questions tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Hey, Mark Trumbo, I know you're out there. Will you send us a question? That'd be kind of fun.
That'd be great.
All right, friends. We'll have a Fan Mail Friday for you tomorrow. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, all you sickos who love this team and all the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Friday.
I think Trumbo's an everydayer.
Oh, yeah. Trumbo loves us.
He's awesome.
We all got to get together.
Let's do it.